Welcome to Dark Seduction Stories, where dangerous love, powerful obsessions, and romance that changes everything. Drop your location in the comments, and let's dive into tonight's tale. Mara Santos hadn't been able to draw a face in 8 months. Her hands still worked perfectly. She could sketch buildings, landscapes, objects with photographic precision, but the moment she tried to capture human features, eyes, nose, the curve of a mouth, her pencil froze. Her mind went blank, as if that part of her brain had been surgically removed and replaced with static. The department had been patient at first. After what she'd witnessed, everyone understood she needed time. But patience had limits, and the Berlin Police Department's limit was exactly 8 months. Yesterday, her captain had called her into his office and told her what she already knew. A forensic sketch artist who couldn't draw faces was useless. "Take a leave of absence," he'd said, not meeting her eyes. "Get your head straight. See someone. We'll hold your position for 6 months." They both knew 6 months meant never. Now Mara sat in her apartment in Kreuzberg, staring at the blank sketch pad in her lap, trying to draw the face that had destroyed her. The man from the Tiergarten. The one she'd seen carving symbols into his victim while she was supposed to be on a routine witness interview nearby. She'd been in the wrong place at the perfect time to see everything. His face was burned into her memory. Every line, every shadow. Those pale eyes that had locked with hers for 3 endless seconds before she'd run. But when she tried to put pencil to paper, her hand refused. Her brain refused. Some protective mechanism had kicked in and decided that remembering faces, any faces, was too dangerous. Her phone buzzed. Detective Chen, her partner. "Stop wallowing and meet me at Görlitzer Park in an hour," the text read. "I found something you need to see." Mara almost didn't go, but the alternative was sitting in her apartment, staring at blank pages, slowly suffocating under the weight of her uselessness. She went. Chen was waiting by the fountain, looking sharp in her leather jacket despite the November cold. She'd been Mara's partner for 3 years, long enough to know when to push and when to just exist in comfortable silence. Today, apparently, was a pushing day. "You look terrible," Chen said by way of greeting. "Thanks," Mara replied. "You said you found something." Chen pulled out her phone and showed Mara a photograph. A missing person report. A woman in her 30s, corporate type, last seen 3 weeks ago. But that wasn't what made Mara's breath catch. On the woman's visible forearm in the photo was a tattoo. Intricate, beautiful, like living art. But there was something wrong about it. Something that made Mara's skin prickle. "That's the 3rd one," Chen said quietly. 3 people missing in the last 4 months. All of them got tattoos from the same artist right before they disappeared. All of them from the same place, some underground parlor in Neukölln that only operates at night. No official business license, no paper trail, just word of mouth. "And you're telling me this because?" Mara asked, though she already knew. "Because you're bored out of your mind and I need help," Chen said bluntly. "Official channels aren't getting anywhere. The captain won't assign resources to what he calls adults exercising their right to disappear. But I know something's wrong, and I thought maybe... You thought maybe investigating would give me something to do besides feeling sorry for myself," Mara finished. "That too," Chen admitted. "But also, you're good at seeing things others miss. You don't need to draw faces to do that." Mara looked at the photo again. The tattoo seemed to move in the image, though she knew that was impossible. "What's the artist's name?" "Kai Volkov," Chen said. "Russian or maybe Ukrainian. Been in Berlin about 5 years. No criminal record, no social media presence. The parlor is called Nocturne, and it only takes clients by referral. Very exclusive. Very expensive." "How do we get in?" Mara asked. Chen smiled. "I already got us a referral. Told them my friend was looking for something special. Something transformative. They gave me an address and a time. Midnight tonight. You interested?" Mara should have said no. Should have gone home, called her therapist, worked on the breathing exercises that were supposed to help with the panic attacks. But she'd been numb for 8 months, and the thought of actually feeling something, even if it was just curiosity or fear, was too tempting to resist. "I'm interested," she said. The address led them to a building in Neukölln that looked abandoned from the outside. Graffitied walls, broken windows, the kind of place where squatters lived and drug deals happened. But at exactly midnight, a door opened, and a young woman with silver hair and full-sleeve tattoos beckoned them inside. "You're Chen's friend?" the woman asked, looking Mara up and down. "Yes," Mara said. "And you're here for the special work? The kind that changes things?" Something in the way she said it made Mara hesitate, but Chen squeezed her arm and she nodded. "This way," the woman said, leading them down a hallway that shouldn't have existed in a building this rundown. The walls were covered in photographs of tattoos, hundreds of them, each one more intricate than the last. And in every photo, the people wearing the tattoos looked transformed, lighter, free. The parlor itself was nothing like Mara expected. Instead of the sterile clinical environment of most tattoo shops, this looked like an art studio crossed with an operating theatre. Exposed brick walls covered in original paintings, medical-grade lighting, a leather chair that looked more like a throne, and covering every available surface, shelves, tables, even the floor, were jars of ink in colours Mara didn't have names for. "He'll be with you in a moment," the silver-haired woman said, and disappeared through a back door. Chen was examining the paintings, her detective instincts on high alert. "These are incredible," she murmured. "But weird. Look at this one. The colours seem to shift when you're not looking directly at them." Mara was about to respond when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned and forgot how to breathe. Kai Volkov was tall, lean, with dark hair pulled back in a knot and eyes so pale they were almost colourless. But it was his tattoos that made Mara stare. They covered every visible inch of his skin, arms, neck, even his hands, in designs so complex they seemed to tell stories. She could see faces in the ink, landscapes, abstract patterns that hurt to look at directly, and unlike every other face she'd tried to see in the past 8 months, his came through crystal clear, sharp, defined, undeniable. "You must be Mara," he said, his voice accented, smooth as the ink he worked with. "I was told you're looking for transformation." Yes," Mara managed, hating how breathless she sounded. His pale eyes studied her with an intensity that felt physical. "You're broken," he said, not a question. "Something happened, something that took away your ability to do what you love most." Mara's throat tightened. "How did you—" "I can see it," Kai interrupted gently. "In the way you hold yourself, the way your hands move. Artist's hands, but frozen, waiting for permission to create again." He moved closer, and Mara caught his scent. Ink and antiseptic and something darker, like smoke from a fire that had been burning for years. "I can help you," he said softly. "But first, you need to understand what I do here. I don't just create art, I transfer it. Pain, trauma, the things that break us, I take them and turn them into something beautiful. Something you can carry on your skin instead of in your soul." "That's not how tattoos work," Chen said from behind Mara, her voice skeptical. Kai's eyes didn't leave Mara's face. "Show me your arm," he said. Without thinking, Mara extended her right arm. Kai took it gently, his fingers cool against her skin, tracing invisible patterns on her forearm. "Here," he said, pressing lightly just below her wrist. "This is where you hold your fear, the memory of what you saw. It's locked in your muscles, your nerves. That's why you can't draw anymore. Your body is protecting you from accessing the trauma by shutting down the pathway to your art." His accuracy was terrifying. "I can remove it," Kai continued. "Not erase it, that's impossible. But I can extract the emotional weight, turn it into ink and art. You'll remember what happened, but it won't own you anymore, and your hands will be free to create again." "That's insane," Chen said flatly. "Is it?" Kai asked, finally looking at her. "Your friend has tried therapy, medication, hypnosis probably. Nothing worked, because trauma doesn't live in your conscious mind. It lives in your body, and the only way to remove it is to give it physical form." He turned back to Mara. "1 session. If it doesn't work, you pay nothing. If it does work, how much?" Kai smiled, And it was beautiful and terrible all at once. That depends on what you have to give. Money is easy, but sometimes the payment is more personal. Sometimes what I need is information, access, a favor to be named later. Every alarm bell in Mara's head was screaming. This was manipulation. This was dangerous. This was everything her training told her to walk away from. But he was right about one thing. She tried everything else. "One session," she said. "Tonight." "Mara," Chen started, but Mara cut her off. "Wait outside," she said. "Please." Chen looked between them, clearly torn between her duty as a friend and her respect for Mara's autonomy. Finally, she nodded. "I'll be right outside that door. Anything feels wrong, you yell." After Chen left, the room felt smaller, more intimate. "Lie back," Kai said, gesturing to the leather chair. Mara obeyed, hyper-aware of every point where her body touched the cool leather. Kai moved around her with practiced efficiency, setting up his tools, preparing inks in shades of blue and black, and something that looked like liquid silver. "This will hurt," he warned, settling onto a stool beside her. "Not just physically. The process of extracting trauma, it means you have to relive it. Experience it fully one last time before it can be transformed." "I relive it every night," Mara said quietly. "At least this time it'll mean something." Kai's expression softened, almost imperceptibly. "Tell me what happened," he said, beginning to clean her forearm with antiseptic. "Tell me what you saw." And somehow, with his hands on her skin and the buzz of the tattoo gun starting up, Mara found herself talking. She told him about the Tiergarten, about the body, about the man who'd looked up and seen her watching, his pale eyes meeting hers with a knowledge that had frozen her blood, about running but not fast enough, about the feeling that he'd marked her somehow, claimed her as a witness, and that meant she could never really escape. As she talked, Kai worked. The needle bit into her skin, sharp, burning, exactly as painful as promised. But there was something else too, a strange relief, as if each puncture was releasing pressure she hadn't known was building. "Look at me," Kai said softly, and she did. His pale eyes held hers, and for a moment she could have sworn she saw something moving in their depths. Shadows, faces, the echoes of other people's pain. "I'm taking it now," he murmured. "The fear, the helplessness, the way he looked at you and made you feel small. I'm pulling it out and putting it here, in the ink, where it can't hurt you anymore." Mara felt something shift inside her, a loosening, like a knot coming undone. The memories were still there, but the weight of them had changed. They felt distant, manageable. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt strange in the chair under Kai's hands, with pain and relief blurring into a single sensation. Finally, the buzzing stopped. "It's done," Kai said, setting down his gun. "Look." Mara raised her arm and stared at the fresh tattoo. It was beautiful, an abstract design that somehow captured everything she'd felt that night in the Tiergarten. Dark blues swirling into silver with touches of red that looked almost like blood but transformed into something else. And hidden in the design, visible only when she looked at it from certain angles, were faces. Her breath caught. "Can you see them?" Kai asked quietly. "Yes," Mara whispered. "I can see faces again." She looked up at him, tears streaming down her cheeks. "How did you?" "I told you," Kai said, gently wiping her tears with his thumb. "I extract trauma and transform it. Your inability to see faces was your mind protecting you from seeing his face. Now that the trauma is here," he tapped her new tattoo, "your mind doesn't need that protection anymore." Mara sat up slowly, testing her arm, flexing her fingers. Everything felt different, lighter. "Thank you," she breathed. Kai smiled, but there was something behind it. Satisfaction, perhaps, or hunger. "Now we discuss payment." "Anything," Mara said, and meant it. "You're a forensic artist," Kai said, not a question. "You have access to police files, criminal records, information about people who've done terrible things." A chill ran down Mara's spine. "What are you asking?" "I need names," Kai said simply. "People who've caused suffering, Abusers, predators, the ones who slip through the system's cracks. I want to help them the way I helped you, take their trauma and transform it. It sounded reasonable, noble even, but something in his tone made Mara hesitate. And if I say no? She asked. Kai shrugged. Then you walk away. The tattoo is yours, the healing is yours. I won't take it back, but you'll always wonder what else I could have given you, what other doors I could have opened. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to barely a whisper. I see you, Mara, the real you, the one who wants to do more than just sketch faces for police reports, the one who wants to make a real difference. I can help you do that, but only if you trust me. Mara stood on a knife's edge. She knew somewhere deep down that saying yes would change everything, that she was making a deal she didn't fully understand. But her arm felt light. Her mind felt clear. And for the first time in 8 months, she could see faces again. One name, she said finally. I'll give you one name, and then we're even. Kai's smile was radiant. One name is perfect, he said. For now. As Mara left Nocturne with Chen, her new tattoo burning beneath its bandage, she didn't look back. Didn't see the way Kai watched her go, his pale eyes glittering with triumph. Didn't know that the tattoo on her arm was already working in ways she couldn't understand, binding her to him, changing her, making her into exactly what he needed. The first piece on his greatest canvas had been placed, and Mara Santos had no idea she'd just agreed to become his masterpiece. The change was immediate and undeniable. The morning after her session with Kai, Mara woke up and reached for her sketch pad before she was fully conscious. Her hand moved across the page without hesitation, capturing the face of the barista who'd served her coffee yesterday, the old woman who lived downstairs, even the vague memory of her mother's smile. Each face came through clearly, perfectly, as if the block in her mind had never existed. She sat in bed surrounded by sketches, tears streaming down her face, feeling like she'd been given back a part of her soul. The tattoo on her forearm throbbed with a dull warmth, already healing faster than any tattoo should. When she peeled back the bandage to check it, she found the skin around it barely red, the design already settling into her flesh, as if it had always been there. And the faces hidden in the abstract patterns seemed clearer now, more defined. She recognized one of them, her own face, twisted in fear from that night in the Tiergarten. Her phone rang. Chen. How are you feeling? Her partner asked without preamble. Better, Mara admitted. I can draw again, Chen. It worked. That's good, Chen said, though her voice was cautious. That's really good. But Mara, we need to talk about that place. About him. I did some digging last night. Mara's stomach tightened. And the missing people. All 3 of them went to Nocturne for transformation sessions. All 3 got elaborate tattoos. All 3 disappeared within 2 weeks of their final session. And here's the thing. Their families say they were different after the tattoos. Calmer, happier, like they'd finally found peace. And then they just vanished. Maybe they wanted to disappear, Mara said, surprised by her own defensiveness. Maybe whatever Kai did for them worked so well they decided to start over somewhere new. Or maybe he's doing something to them, Chen countered. Something that makes them compliant. Suggestible. Mara, I need you to be careful. Whatever he did for you, it comes with strings attached. You know that, right? Mara looked down at her tattoo, tracing the patterns with her fingertips. He asked for a name, she said quietly. Someone from police files. Someone who's caused suffering. Silence on the other end of the line. Then, you're not seriously considering it. I already agreed, Mara admitted. One name, that's all. Mara. It's someone who deserves it, Mara interrupted, the words coming out more heated than she intended. Someone the system failed to put away. What's the harm in letting Kai offer them the same help he gave me? Even as she said it, part of her knew she was rationalizing. But the larger part, the part that could finally draw again, that felt lighter than she had in months, didn't care. The harm is you're crossing a line, Chen said firmly. Giving civilian access to confidential information. You could lose your badge. Hell, you could face criminal charges. I'm already on leave, Mara said. What's one more violation? Your integrity, Chen shot back. your sense of right and wrong. You're a good cop, Mara. Don't let some charismatic tattoo artist with parlor tricks turn you into something else. But the problem was, Mara wanted to be something else. She'd been a good cop, and where had it gotten her? Traumatized, broken, unable to do her job. Maybe being something else, someone who colored outside the lines, was exactly what she needed. I have to go, she said. I'll call you later. She hung up before Chen could argue further. That afternoon, Mara went to the precinct. She still had her credentials, still had access to the database. No one questioned her presence. Everyone assumed she was there to clean out her desk or file paperwork. She logged into the system and searched for a specific name, Marcus Weber. The file that came up made her stomach turn even now, months after she'd first read it. Marcus Weber, 43, wealthy businessman with a string of assault allegations that had never stuck. Women who'd worked for him had come forward with stories of harassment, coercion, violence. But Weber had expensive lawyers and powerful friends, and every case had been settled out of court with ironclad NDAs. The most recent complaint had been from his personal assistant, a young woman who'd ended up in the hospital with broken ribs and a fractured jaw. Weber claimed she'd fallen downstairs. The case was dropped due to insufficient evidence. Mara printed his file, including his photo and current address. Her hands were steady. She didn't let herself think about what she was doing, what line she was crossing. That night, she returned to Nocturne. The silver-haired woman answered the door again, but this time she smiled like Mara was an old friend. "He's expecting you," she said, leading Mara down the familiar hallway. Kai was in the main studio, working on a canvas that wasn't skin, an actual painting, dark and beautiful and somehow alive. He looked up when she entered, and his pale eyes lit with something that might have been pleasure, or might have been triumph. "You came back," he said. "I wasn't sure you would." "I brought what you asked for," Mara said, holding out the folder. Kai set down his brush and took the file, flipping through it with casual interest. When he reached Weber's photo, something shifted in his expression. Recognition, perhaps, or satisfaction. "Perfect," he murmured. "This man has caused so much pain. I can feel it just from his picture, the weight of what he carries." "What are you going to do?" Mara asked. Kai looked up at her, his expression gentle. "The same thing I did for you," he said. "Help him transform his trauma into art. Give him the chance to be free of what he's done." It sounded so reasonable when he said it like that. "And if he doesn't want your help?" Mara pressed. "Everyone wants to be free of their pain," Kai said simply. "They just don't always know it yet. Now, let me see your tattoo. I want to make sure it's healing properly." Mara extended her arm, and Kai took it with the same careful touch as before. His fingers traced the design, and she felt that same electric sensation, like he was reading her through her skin. "Beautiful," he said softly. "The trauma has settled into the ink perfectly. But there's more, isn't there? More pain you're carrying. I can feel it." He was right. The face from the Tiergarten had been transformed, but there were other ghosts, other failures. Cases she hadn't solved, victims she couldn't help, the accumulated weight of 8 years in law enforcement. "I could take those too," Kai offered, his voice low and hypnotic. "Layer by layer, session by session, until you're carrying nothing but the art, until you're completely free." "What would that cost?" Mara asked, though she already suspected the answer. "More names," Kai said. "More information. And eventually," he paused, his thumb tracing a circle on her inner wrist, "I'll need something else from you. Something more personal. But we have time to discuss that." Mara knew she should pull her arm away, should walk out and never come back, should call Chen and confess everything. Instead, she said, "When can we do the next session?" Kai's smile was radiant. "Right now if you want. I have everything ready." She wanted. This session was different from the first. Kai worked on her other arm, creating a design that mirrored the first but told a different story. As he worked, he asked her about the cases that haunted her. The child she couldn't save, the serial rapist who'd walked on a technicality, the domestic violence victim who'd gone back to her abuser and ended up dead. Each story she told, Kai absorbed. She could see it happening. the way his expression shifted, taking on the weight of what she described. And as the tattoo took shape, as the needle bit into her skin again and again, Mara felt those failures lifting away. "You feel it, don't you?" Kai murmured. "The transfer. I'm taking what's yours and making it mine, carrying it, so you don't have to." "Why would you do that?" Mara asked, her voice dreamy with pain and relief. "Why take on other people's trauma?" Kai paused in his work, meeting her eyes. "Because I'm already carrying so much of my own," he said quietly. "What's a little more? And besides," he resumed tattooing, "I don't just carry it, I transform it. I take the pain and turn it into power, into art, into justice." "Justice," Mara repeated. "The man you gave me, Marcus Weber," Kai said. "I'm going to invite him here, offer him the same transformation I'm giving you. And when he sits in this chair, when he's vulnerable and open, I'm going to tattoo every bit of pain he's caused directly into his skin. Every woman he hurt, every moment of suffering he created. He'll carry it all permanently, the way his victims have to carry their scars." Mara's breath caught. "That's not transformation. That's punishment." "Sometimes they're the same thing," Kai said. "Sometimes the only way to truly change is to feel the weight of what you've done. The tattoo will make him feel everything his victims felt, every moment of fear, pain, humiliation, and he'll carry that forever. That's real justice." It should have horrified her, should have sent her running back to Chen, to the captain, to anyone who could stop this. But all Mara could think was, good. Good that Marcus Weber would finally feel what he'd put others through. Good that someone was doing what the system couldn't. Good that there was justice in the world, even if it came from needles and ink instead of judges and juries. "What happens to them after?" she asked. "The people you tattoo with their own crimes." Kai's expression darkened. "They can't handle it," he said simply. "The weight of what they've done, experienced all at once, it breaks them. Some disappear. Some end their own lives. All of them change irrevocably." "The missing people," Mara breathed. "Chen's investigation. We're all predators," Kai finished. "I helped them understand what they'd done, gave them the full weight of their actions. What they chose to do with that knowledge was up to them." He set down his tattoo gun and cupped Mara's face gently. "I'm not a monster," he said softly. "I'm a balance. For every predator I mark with their crimes, I help 10 people like you. People carrying trauma they didn't deserve. I take from those who've caused pain and give to those who've suffered it. It's a kind of redistribution, a restoration of cosmic justice." His pale eyes held hers, and Mara felt herself falling into them, into his vision of the world, into the seductive logic of it all. "Help me," Kai whispered. "Be my partner in this. You see the cases that slip through the cracks, the people the system fails to stop. Give them to me, and I'll make sure they face real consequences. And in return, I'll take away every bit of pain you're carrying. We'll heal each other." "I can't," Mara said weakly, but even as she said it, she knew she would. "You already have," Kai pointed out gently. "Marcus Weber is just the first. But there are others, aren't there? Other files that keep you up at night, other monsters walking free." There were dozens. "Let me see the finished piece," Mara said instead of answering, changing the subject. Kai smiled like he knew exactly what she was doing and held up a mirror. Her second tattoo was even more beautiful than the first. Abstract patterns that somehow told the story of every case that had broken her heart. And hidden in the design, visible when the light hit it just right, were the faces of the victims she couldn't save. But they weren't suffering anymore. In the ink, they were at peace. "It's perfect," she whispered. "You're perfect," Kai corrected, his fingers trailing down her newly tattooed arm. "My canvas, my collaborator, my—" He stopped. Himself, but the unfinished word hung between them like smoke. That night, as Mara walked home through Berlin's dark streets, both arms wrapped in fresh bandages, she felt lighter than she had in years. The weight of her failures had been transferred, transformed, turned into art. She didn't think about Marcus Weber and what would happen to him when Kai got him in the chair. Didn't think about Chen's investigation and what it would mean if her partner discovered the truth. Didn't think about the line she'd crossed or the lines she'd inevitably cross next. All she thought about was the feeling of Kai's hands on her skin, the relief of having her pain carried by someone else, and the intoxicating rightness of finally making the monsters pay. She was changing. She could feel it happening with every step, as surely as the ink settling into her flesh. And the most dangerous part was how good it felt. Marcus Weber disappeared exactly 3 weeks after Mara gave Kai his file. She read about it in the morning news, coffee going cold in her hands as she stared at his photo on her phone. The article was brief. Wealthy businessman, last seen leaving his office on a Tuesday evening. Car found abandoned near Tempelhofer Feld. No signs of foul play. Police were investigating, but had few leads. She should have felt something. Guilt, maybe, or horror at what she'd set in motion. Instead, she felt a cold satisfaction settling in her chest like ice. Her phone rang. Chen. "Tell me you're seeing this," her partner said without preamble. "Weber?" Mara asked, keeping her voice carefully neutral. "Fourth person to go missing after visiting that tattoo parlor," Chen said. "I'm getting a warrant. This has gone beyond coincidence. Something is happening at Nocturne, and I'm going to find out what." Mara's stomach clenched. "You have evidence linking Weber to Kai?" "Not yet," Chen admitted. "But I will. I've got surveillance footage from the building across the street. Going through it now. If Weber went there, I'll have proof." Mara's mind raced. She should warn Kai, should give him time to cover his tracks. But warning him would make her an accessory, would push her even further past the point of no return. "Be careful," she said instead. "If something is going on there, you don't know what you're walking into. That's why I want you there," Chen said. "When we execute the warrant, I know you're on leave. But this started as your case too. And besides," she paused, "you've been inside. You know the layout. It could help." "When?" Mara asked, her pulse hammering. "Tomorrow night," Chen said. "Midnight, when the place is open. I want to catch him in the act." After they hung up, Mara sat motionless for a long time, staring at the tattoos covering her arms. She now had 4, both forearms and both upper arms, each one documenting a different layer of trauma Kai had extracted and transformed. The sessions had become regular, twice a week, each one peeling away another piece of her pain, and after each session, she gave Kai another name: a domestic abuser who'd put his wife in a coma, a corporate executive who'd covered up environmental poisoning that killed a dozen people, a doctor who'd sexually assaulted patients under anesthesia. Each name was a gift, carefully chosen from files that haunted her. Each one was someone who'd escaped justice through money or power or sheer luck. She told herself she was helping Kai heal them, told herself they deserved to carry the weight of what they'd done, told herself this was a better kind of justice than anything the courts could offer. She didn't let herself think about where they went after Kai was done with them. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Come tonight, we need to talk. K." Mara stared at the message, then grabbed her jacket. Nocturne was quiet when she arrived, no other clients visible. The coy, silver-haired woman, Mara had learned her name was Sonia, led her not to the main studio, but up a narrow staircase to a space she'd never seen before. It was Kai's living quarters, she realized. A loft apartment above the parlor, all exposed brick and dark wood and windows covered with heavy curtains. Every wall was covered in artwork, paintings, sketches, photographs of tattoos. But these weren't beautiful transformations like the ones downstairs. These were horror shows, people covered in tattoos, their faces twisted in agony, close-ups of designs that seemed to writhe and pulse, and written beneath each photograph in Kai's precise handwriting were descriptions of crimes, assault, rape, murder, fraud that ruined lives. "This is my gallery," Kai said from behind her, making her jump. "My real work. The victims I've helped heal are downstairs, but these," he gestured to the walls, "these are my victories." Mara moved closer to one photograph. A man in his 50s, stripped to the waist, his torso covered in a massive tattoo, that looked like it was eating him alive, faces screaming from his skin, hands reaching out of his flesh. "Marcus Weber," she breathed. "Yes," Kai said softly. "He came willingly, like they all do. I told him I could help him with his rage issues, make him feel calm. He sat in my chair for 6 hours while I tattooed every woman he'd hurt directly into his nervous system. By the end, he was experiencing all of their trauma simultaneously. Every moment of pain he'd caused reflected back at him 1,000-fold. "What happened to him?" Mara asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. Kai moved to stand beside her, close enough that she could feel his body heat. "He walked out of here," he said quietly, got in his car, drove to Tempelhofer Feld, and walked into the darkness. "They'll find his body eventually, I suspect, if the elements haven't taken care of it first, but he won't be hurting anyone ever again." "You killed him," Mara said, the words flat. "I gave him the truth," Kai corrected. "What he did with that truth was his choice. I don't force anything, Mara. I simply make people feel the full weight of their actions. Some people can't live with that weight. That's not murder, that's consequence." He turned to face her fully, his pale eyes intense. "The police are coming tomorrow night," he said. "Your partner got her warrant. Did you know?" Mara's breath caught. "How did you?" "I have my sources too," Kai said with a slight smile. "The question is, whose side are you on?" "I'm a cop," Mara said automatically. "You're my partner," Kai countered. "We've built something together, a real kind of justice that actually works. Are you going to let them shut that down? Go back to watching monsters walk free because of technicalities and expensive lawyers?" He took her tattooed arms gently, running his fingers over the designs. "I've taken away your pain," he said softly. "Made you whole again. Given you purpose. Don't I? Deserve your loyalty in return." Mara looked at the photographs covering the walls. All those predators. All those people who'd escaped justice until Kai caught them. Then she looked down at her own arms, at the beautiful transformations of her trauma. "What do you want me to do?" she asked quietly. Kai's smile was triumphant. "Tell me what they're looking for," he said. "Help me prepare, and when they raid this place, make sure they don't find anything that connects me to the missing people. That's all I ask. Just buy me time." "Time for what?" Mara asked. "To finish my masterpiece," Kai said, his hands sliding up her arms to her shoulders. "To complete your transformation." His touch sent electricity through her entire body. "I thought I was already transformed," she said, her voice breathless. "You're close," Kai murmured, his lips near her ear. "But there's one more piece. One more layer I need to add, the most important one." "What is it?" Mara whispered. Instead of answering, Kai pulled back and gestured to a chair by the window. "Sit," he said. "Let me show you something." Mara sat, and Kai knelt before her, taking her left hand. He turned it palm up, studying it in the dim light. "Do you remember all our sessions?" he asked. "Of course," Mara said. "Every moment? Every detail?" She frowned, trying to recall. The sessions blurred together in her memory. Pain and relief. Kai's voice talking her through the trauma. The incredible lightness afterward. But specific details? Those were hazy, like looking through frosted glass. "Some of it's fuzzy," she admitted. Kai traced a line across her palm with his fingertip. "That's because I've been working on you in more ways than you realize," he said softly. "The tattoos you can see are just part of it. But there are others, invisible ones, done with special ink in places you'd never notice." Mara's blood went cold. "What are you talking about?" Kai stood and retrieved something from a cabinet. A small UV light. He turned off the overhead lights, plunging the room into darkness, then switched on the UV light and held it over her palm. Mara gasped. Her hand was covered in tattoos she'd never seen, intricate patterns glowing blue-white under the UV light, covering her palms, between her fingers, spiraling up the insides of her wrists. "What have you done to me?" she whispered, horror creeping into her voice. "Enhanced you," Kai said calmly, moving the light up her arms. More hidden tattoos appeared, layered beneath and between the visible ones. The visible tattoos extract your trauma, but these, he traced one of the glowing patterns, these create a connection, a bond between us. They make you receptive to my influence. They make you mine. Mara jerked her hand away, standing abruptly. You drugged me, she said, backing toward the door. You tattooed me without my consent. I gave you exactly what you wanted, Kai interrupted, his voice still maddeningly calm. Freedom from pain, the ability to do your work again, a sense of purpose. The ink I used to bind you, it's the same compound that's in all my work. It's what makes the transformation possible. Without it, the trauma extraction wouldn't work. You're insane, Mara said, her hand on the doorknob. And yet you're not leaving, Kai observed, because you know I'm right. You know what we're doing matters. And you know that if you walk out that door, if you let the police shut me down, you'll go back to carrying all that pain I took from you. The bond works both ways, Mara. I've been carrying your trauma for you. If our connection breaks, it all comes flooding back. Mara's hand dropped from the doorknob. You're blackmailing me. I'm showing you the truth, Kai said, moving closer. You and I are connected now, bound together by ink and intention. You can't stop what we're doing without destroying yourself in the process. And why would you want to? We're making the world better, one predator at a time. He was right in front of her now, close enough that she could see her own reflection in his pale eyes. Help me tomorrow, he said softly. Protect what we've built, and I promise, when this is over, I'll complete your transformation. I'll make you into something extraordinary, my perfect canvas, my masterpiece, my partner in every way. The way he said partner made it clear he meant more than professional collaboration. Mara knew she should run, should call Chen right now and tell her everything, should expose Kai for what he was, a manipulator, a killer, someone who'd violated her consent and bound her to him without permission. But the thought of carrying all that trauma again, the Tiergarten, the failed cases, the victims she couldn't save, made her want to scream. And beneath the horror of what Kai had done, there was something else. A dark thrill at being chosen, marked, claimed. What do you need me to do? She heard herself ask. Kai's smile was radiant with triumph. Tomorrow night when the police come, there's a safe room behind the main studio, he said. Hidden panel in the wall. Inside are all my records. Names, photographs, files on everyone I've worked on. I need you to get there first and destroy them. Can you do that? Every instinct she'd ever had as a cop screamed at her to refuse. But those instincts felt distant now, muffled, like they belonged to someone else. Yes, she whispered. I can do that. Kai cupped her face in his hands and kissed her. Deep, consuming, tasting of ink and darkness and promises she didn't fully understand. When he pulled back, his eyes glittered with satisfaction. My perfect canvas, he murmured. Soon, you'll be complete, and then everyone will see what we've created together. Mara left Nocturne in a daze, her invisible tattoos burning beneath her skin like brands. She'd crossed so many lines, she could no longer see where they'd been. Had become so entangled in Kai's vision that she couldn't tell where his manipulation ended and her own desires began. Tomorrow, she would betray her partner, destroy evidence, protect a killer. And the worst part was how right it felt. How much she wanted to see where this transformation would lead. How completely she'd become exactly what Kai had designed her to be. His accomplice, his creation, his canvas covered in visible and invisible marks of ownership. She was his masterpiece, and she'd stopped wanting to be anything else. The raid was scheduled for midnight, when Nocturne would be in full operation. Mara arrived at the staging point at 11:30, wearing a borrowed vest that said police across the back. Chen was there with 6 other officers, all of them checking equipment and reviewing the building schematics. The energy was tense, focused, the way it always was before a major operation. You okay? Chen asked, studying Mara's face. You look pale. I'm fine, Mara lied, her invisible tattoos burning beneath her sleeves like accusations. Just nervous. I haven't done this in a while. Chen squeezed her shoulder. Stay close to me, she said. We go in fast, Secure the premises. Don't give anyone time to destroy evidence. If Volkov is doing what I think he's doing, we'll find proof tonight. Guilt twisted in Mara's stomach. Chen trusted her, had brought her back into the fold despite her leave status because she believed Mara was still one of the good guys, had no idea that Mara was about to betray her in the worst way possible. At exactly midnight, they moved. The door to Nocturne was unlocked, as if Kai had been expecting them. They flooded into the hallway, boots loud on the hardwood floor, voices calling out commands. Mara stayed close to Chen as they'd planned, but her eyes were scanning for the hidden panel Kai had described. The main studio was occupied. 3 people in various stages of tattooing, including Sonia, working on a young woman's shoulder. But Kai wasn't there. "Where's Volkov?" Chen demanded, showing her badge. Sonia looked up calmly, completely unbothered by the police presence. "Upstairs," she said, "in his private studio. Shall I get him?" "Stay where you are," Chen ordered, then gestured to 2 officers. "Check upstairs. Everyone else secure the clients and start searching for evidence." This was Mara's moment. While Chen was coordinating the search, Mara slipped toward the back of the studio. The hidden panel was exactly where Kai said it would be, behind a large painting of a screaming face, barely visible seam in the brick wall. She glanced back to make sure no one was watching, then pressed the release mechanism. The panel swung open silently, revealing a small room lined with filing cabinets and shelves. Mara's breath caught. The space was a shrine to Kai's work. Hundreds of files, each one meticulously labeled with a name and date. Photographs covered the walls, some showing the beautiful transformations Kai had given to trauma victims, others showing the horrific justice he'd delivered to predators. And in the corner, a laptop connected to external hard drives. This was everything Chen needed to put Kai away forever. Mara pulled out her phone and opened the camera app, ready to document everything before she destroyed it. But as she started photographing the files, one folder caught her eye. Her name was on it. With trembling hands, she opened the folder. Inside were photographs of her, dozens of them taken during her sessions with Kai. But these weren't clinical documentation. They were intimate, almost loving, capturing her face in moments of pain and relief and transcendence. Beneath each photo were notes in Kai's handwriting, tracking her transformation with scientific precision. "Subject shows increased compliance after 3rd session," one note read. "UV tattoos on palms and wrists creating desired bonding effect. Subject now incapable of refusing requests. Ready for phase 2. Another. Subject has provided 6 names, all verified targets. Loyalty to former profession weakening as predicted. Emotional attachment to handler forming naturally. Proceed with final marking." Mara felt sick. She'd thought, what had she thought? That Kai cared about her? That they were partners? But these notes read like a scientist documenting an experiment. Like she was just another subject to be manipulated and controlled. She flipped to the last page in the folder and froze. It was a sketch, beautifully rendered, clearly drawn by Kai himself, showing Mara's body covered entirely in tattoos. Not just her arms, but her back, chest, legs, every inch of skin transformed into his canvas. And written at the bottom, "The masterpiece final form." "Beautiful, isn't it?" Kai's voice said from behind her. Mara spun around to find him standing in the doorway of the hidden room, blocking her exit. He was calm, almost serene, despite the police raid happening mere feet away. "You've been planning this from the beginning," Mara said, her voice shaking. "Everything, the healing, the partnership, all of it was just to make me into your puppet." "Not a puppet," Kai corrected gently. "A masterpiece. There's a difference. I've given you everything I promised. Freedom from pain, purpose, the ability to do real good in the world. The fact that it also serves my needs doesn't diminish what I've given you." "You manipulated me," Mara said, backing away from him. "You put things in my skin without my consent. And you came back again and again," Kai interrupted, moving closer. "Even after you suspected something was wrong. Even after your partner warned you. Because the truth is, Mara, you wanted this. You wanted someone to take away your choices, your responsibility, your guilt. I just gave you permission to become what you already were." "What I already was?" Mara repeated, anger flaring hot in her chest. "A vigilante," Kai said simply. "Someone who believes the system is broken and wants to fix it by any means necessary. Someone who sees justice as something that needs to be taken, not waited for. I didn't create that in you. I just removed the barriers that were holding you back." He reached for her and she flinched away. "Don't touch me," she said. Kai's expression hardened. "You came here to destroy the evidence," he said. "Are you going to do what you came for, or are you going to run back to your partner and pretend you're still one of them?" "Mara," Chen's voice called from the main studio. "Where are you?" Decision time. Mara looked at the files surrounding her. Proof of everything Kai had done, everyone he'd helped and everyone he'd destroyed. Then she looked at Kai, at the man who'd given her back her ability to draw faces and taken away her ability to say no. "You're a monster," she whispered. "So are you," Kai replied. "The only difference is I've accepted it." Chen's footsteps were getting closer. Mara grabbed the laptop and hard drives, her hands moving on autopilot. She yanked the power cords free, letting the devices clatter to the floor. Then she pulled down armfuls of files, scattering papers across the small room. "What are you doing?" Chen's voice came from right behind her. Mara turned to find her partner standing in the doorway, staring at the hidden room with wide eyes. Kai had vanished, slipped away in the chaos, leaving Mara to face the consequences alone. "I found this," Mara said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Behind the painting. It's all his records." "And you were about to destroy them," Chen finished, her voice flat. The silence between them was deafening. "How long?" Chen asked finally. "How long have you been working with him?" "Chen," Mara started. But what could she say? That she'd been manipulated? That invisible tattoos had made her compliant? That she'd crossed every line willingly because it felt like justice? Chen stepped into the room, her expression harder than Mara had ever seen it. "You gave him the names," she said, understanding dawning. "The missing people, Weber and the others. You gave him access to police files. What did he do to you?" "He helped me," Mara said, the words sounding hollow even to her own ears. "He took away my pain. He used you," Chen snapped. "He got inside your head and turned you into an accomplice to multiple murders. And you let him. You chose this." The worst part was, Chen was right. "I'm arresting you," Chen said, reaching for her handcuffs. "Obstruction of justice, evidence tampering, conspiracy to commit murder. We'll figure out the rest at the station." "Wait," Mara said, desperation making her voice crack. "Please, just listen to me." "I'm done listening," Chen said. "Turn around, hands behind your back." But before Chen could close the distance, the lights went out. The entire building plunged into darkness, so complete that Mara couldn't see her own hands in front of her face. She heard Chen curse, heard other officers shouting from the main studio, heard the sound of people running. Then she felt hands on her arms, familiar hands, cool and certain. "Come with me," Kai's voice whispered in her ear. "Now, unless you want to spend the rest of your life in prison." Mara should have stayed, should have let Chen arrest her and face the consequences of her choices. But Kai's invisible tattoos burned hot against her skin, pulling her toward him like a magnet, and she found her feet moving before her brain could catch up. He pulled her through the darkness, navigating the building with the ease of someone who knew every inch of it. They went down a hallway she'd never seen, through a door that led to a tunnel. Actual tunnel, brick-lined and old, smelling of earth and decay. "Where does this go?" Mara gasped as they ran. "Subway maintenance tunnels," Kai said. "Old Cold War escape routes. Berlin is full of them if you know where to look. We'll come up 3 blocks away." Behind them, she heard Chen's voice calling her name, desperate and betrayed. "I can't do this," Mara said, trying to pull away from Kai. "I can't just run." "You already did," Kai said, his grip tightening. "The moment you followed me into the dark, you made your choice. There's no going back now." He was right. She'd crossed the final line, running from the police, abandoning her partner, choosing Kai over everything she'd once believed in. They emerged in an abandoned building near Ostbahnhof, gasping for air. Kai pulled out a phone and made a call in rapid German, too fast for Mara to follow. "Sonia is bringing a car," he said when he hung up. "We have maybe 20 minutes before they lock down the area. We need to move fast." "Move where?" Mara asked. "Kai, they're going to find us. Chen won't stop." "They won't find us," Kai said calmly. "I've been preparing for this possibility since the day I opened Nocturne. I have resources, safe houses, new identities. And now I have you." He cupped her face, his pale eyes gleaming in the dim light filtering through broken windows. "This is what I've been building toward," he said softly. "The masterpiece isn't complete yet. You still have bare skin, places I haven't marked, but now we have time, all the time in the world, to finish what we started." "What are you talking about?" Mara asked, fear creeping into her voice. "I'm taking you away from all of this," Kai said. "Somewhere remote, somewhere we can work without interruption. I'm going to cover every inch of your skin with my art, transform you completely, make you into the living embodiment of everything I believe. You'll be my greatest achievement, Mara, my walking testimony to the power of transformation through pain." Horror washed over her in waves. "I'm not your canvas," she said. "I'm a person." "You were a person," Kai corrected. "Now you're art in progress. And art doesn't get to choose its final form. The artist does." A car pulled up outside, Sonia at the wheel, engine running. Kai took Mara's hand, and she felt the invisible tattoos pulse beneath her skin, compelling her forward. Every step toward the car felt like moving through quicksand, her body obeying the chemical commands written into her flesh, while her mind screamed in protest. "I can make it stop," Kai said quietly, reading her resistance. "The compulsion you're feeling. Once we're somewhere safe, once I complete your transformation, the bond will settle. You won't fight it anymore. You'll understand that this is what you were always meant to be. Or I'll die trying to escape," Mara said. Kai smiled sadly. "Yes," he agreed. "That's always a possibility. But I don't think you will. I think deep down, you want to see what you'll become. You want to know what it feels like to be completely transformed, to be someone's masterpiece." He opened the car door, waiting. Mara looked back toward where they'd come from, toward Chen and the police and everything she'd been before Kai marked her. That life was gone now, burned away by invisible ink and impossible choices. She got in the car. As they drove through Berlin's dark streets, heading toward whatever isolated place Kai had prepared for her final transformation, Mara understood the full weight of what she'd become. Not a victim, not a partner, but something in between, a canvas that had chosen to be painted on, even knowing the final image would destroy everything she'd once been. Kai took her hand in the darkness of the back seat, his thumb tracing the invisible patterns only he could see. "Don't be afraid," he whispered. "What comes next will hurt, but when I'm done, you'll finally understand what it means to be free. Free from choice, free from conscience, free from everything except the art we create together." Mara closed her eyes and felt the invisible tattoos burning beneath her skin like prophecy. She'd let herself be marked, let herself be bound, let herself be transformed from forensic artist into living canvas. And the most horrifying part was the small voice in her head that whispered, "Maybe he's right. Maybe this is freedom. Maybe becoming someone's masterpiece is just another form of salvation." The city lights blurred past the window as they drove toward whatever darkness waited at the end of this journey, and Mara Santos, who'd once drawn faces for justice, let herself be carried toward a fate she could no longer control. Marked, bound, transformed, his canvas, his masterpiece, his forever. The safe house was in a small village outside Dresden, 3 hours from Berlin. An old farmhouse surrounded by empty fields, the kind of place where no one asked questions and neighbors kept to themselves. Kai had prepared it meticulously, a fully equipped studio in the converted barn, complete with professional lighting, the leather chair from Nocturne, and walls lined with jars of ink in every conceivable color. There was a bedroom upstairs, sparse but comfortable, with bars on the windows that Mara pretended not to notice. "Welcome home," Kai said as he showed her around, his voice warm with satisfaction. "This is where we'll complete your transformation. No interruptions, no police, just you and me and the art we're creating together." Mara stood in the center of the studio, feeling the invisible tattoos pulse beneath her skin like a second heartbeat. "How long will it take?" she asked quietly. "Months," Kai said. "Maybe a year. I need to cover every inch of bare skin with designs that tell your complete story. Your trauma, your transformation, your evolution from broken detective to living artwork. It will be painful, but pain is just another form of devotion." "And if I refuse?" Mara asked, though they both knew the answer. Kai moved behind her, his hands settling on her shoulders. "The invisible ink makes refusal difficult," he said softly, "but not impossible. You could fight it, resist every session, make this unbearable for both of us. Or," his fingers traced down her arms, "you could surrender to it. Stop fighting what you're becoming. Let me turn you into something extraordinary." "I want to see them," Mara said suddenly. "The invisible tattoos, all of them. I want to know exactly what you've done to me." Kai smiled and retrieved a UV light from his supplies. "Strip," he said simply. Mara's hands moved to her shirt buttons before her brain could process the command. The compulsion was immediate and undeniable, her body obeying the chemical instructions written into her flesh. She undressed mechanically, standing naked in the cold studio light while Kai circled her with the UV lamp. The invisible tattoos blazed to life under the light, covering far more of her body than she'd imagined. Her palms and wrists, as she'd seen before, but also her collarbone, her ribs, the inside of her thighs, intricate patterns of control and binding, beautiful and terrifying, glowing blue-white against her skin. And on her back, between her shoulder blades, the largest design of all, Kai's signature, claiming her as his creation. "You've marked me everywhere," Mara whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Even places I never let you touch during sessions." "The ink absorbs through skin contact," Kai explained calmly. "Every time I touched you, even casually, I was adding to the design, layer by layer, each interaction strengthening the bond. You've been my canvas since the moment we met. You just didn't know it." He switched off the UV light and the markings disappeared, leaving only her visible tattoos. But Mara could still feel them burning beneath her skin, invisible chains binding her to him more surely than any physical restraint. "Tonight we begin the final work," Kai said, gesturing to the leather chair. "Your legs first. I'm going to create a design that captures your journey. Every step that led you here, every choice that brought you to me. It will hurt more than anything you've experienced. But when I'm done, you'll understand that pain and beauty are inseparable." Mara looked at the chair, then at Kai, then at her own marked skin. She thought about Chen, probably tearing apart Berlin looking for her, about the life she'd destroyed, about the woman she used to be before Kai had turned her into this, his possession, his creation, his masterpiece in progress. "What if I told you there's a way out?" a voice said from the doorway. They both spun around to find Sonia standing there, but her expression was different, harder, colder, and she was holding a gun. "Sonia?" Kai said, confusion crossing his face for the first time since Mara had known him. "What are you doing?" "Finishing what I started 3 years ago," Sonia said, her accent shifting, less German, more Eastern European. "My real name is Kai Volkov. I'm Kai's sister, and I've been waiting for the right moment to stop him." Kai's face went pale. "That's impossible. Katya died." "Katya died after you turned her into your first masterpiece," Sonia interrupted, her voice hard. "After you covered every inch of her skin with your art and made her so dependent on you that she couldn't function without your touch. She killed herself, Kai, jumped from a bridge because living as your possession was worse than dying." The room fell silent except for Mara's ragged breathing. "I faked my own death after that," Sonia continued. "Changed my appearance, my name, everything. Spent 2 years tracking you. When you opened Nocturne, I convinced you to hire me. You never recognized your own sister. Too busy creating new victims to notice the old ones." "Victims?" Kai said, finding his voice. "I help people. You destroy them." Sonia snapped. You take broken people and make them dependent on you. You mark them without consent. You turn them into living artwork that exists only to validate your twisted worldview. The predators you punish, they deserve what they get. But the trauma victims you claim to heal, you just replace one form of suffering with another. She looked at Mara, her expression softening slightly. I've been documenting everything, she said. Every session, every forced marking, every manipulation. I sent it all to your partner, Detective Chen, before we left Berlin. She knows where you are. She's coming. You're lying, Kai said, but his voice wavered. Am I? Sonia said. Check your phone. I'm sure the police have already raided this location's registry. They'll be here within the hour. Kai pulled out his phone, and Mara watched his face change as he read whatever was on the screen. Anger, fear, and something else. Loss. You betrayed me, he said to Sonia. After everything. You betrayed yourself, Sonia interrupted. The moment you decided people were canvases instead of human beings. Now get away from her. She gestured with the gun, and Kai stepped back slowly. Sonia moved to Mara, keeping the gun trained on Kai. Get dressed, she said gently. We're leaving. But when Mara tried to move, her body wouldn't obey. The invisible tattoos flared hot, locking her muscles in place. I can't, she gasped. The ink, it won't let me leave him. The bond, Kai said softly, and despite everything, there was genuine sadness in his voice. It's too strong now. She's too deeply marked. Even if you take her, she'll come back to me. She has to. It's written into her flesh. Then we'll remove it, Sonia said. Laser removal, surgery, whatever it takes. It doesn't work like that, Kai said. The compounds I use, they bond at a cellular level. They integrate with nerve pathways. Remove the visible tattoos and you'll just drive the invisible ones deeper. Make the compulsion stronger. There's only one way to break the bond. How? Mara asked desperately. Kai met her eyes, and for the first time, she saw something like regret there. I have to die, he said simply. The bond is between us, tied to my life force, my consciousness. When I die, the compulsion dies with me. The tattoos become just ink again, just art, not chains. Silence fell over the studio. Then that's what happens, Sonia said, raising the gun. Wait, Mara heard herself say. Both of them looked at her. Wait, she repeated, not understanding her own hesitation. Kai had manipulated her, marked her without consent, turned her into his possession. She should want him dead, should be grateful for Sonia's intervention. But the invisible tattoos were singing beneath her skin, and part of her, the part he'd created, couldn't bear the thought of existing without him. Don't do this for him, Sonia said, reading Mara's expression. That's just the conditioning talking, the chemicals making you think you need him. But you don't. You're stronger than his ink. Am I? Mara asked, tears streaming down her face again. How do I know what's real anymore? How do I know which thoughts are mine and which ones he put there? You start by choosing, Sonia said firmly. Right now, do you want to be free, or do you want to be his masterpiece? The question hung in the air like smoke. Mara looked at Kai, at the man who'd given her back her ability to draw faces and taken away her ability to choose, at the artist who saw people as canvases and called it love, at the monster who'd wrapped his manipulation in the language of healing and transformation. I want to be free, she whispered. Kai's expression crumpled. You don't mean that, he said. Mara, please think about everything I've given you, the pain I've taken away, the purpose I've provided. Without me, you'll go back to being broken. Maybe broken is better than being someone else's art, Mara said, finding her voice. Maybe I'd rather carry my own pain than let you use it to control me. Sonia pulled the trigger. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. Kai staggered backward, hand going to his chest, where blood bloomed dark against his shirt. He looked at Mara with those pale eyes one last time, his expression a mixture of betrayal and understanding. You were going to be perfect, he whispered. My greatest work. Then he collapsed. The moment Kai hit the ground, Mara felt something inside her snap, like a wire under tension suddenly cut. The invisible tattoos flared one last time, burning hot enough to make her cry out. then went cold and dormant. The compulsion drained away like water from a broken dam, leaving her hollow, but free. She could move again, could think again, could choose again. Sonia helped her dress quickly, averting her eyes from the tattoos covering Mara's skin, both visible and invisible. "We need to leave before the police arrive," she said. "I'll explain everything to them, but you need medical attention first. The compounds he used, we need to make sure they're not still active in your system." "He's really dead?" Mara asked, not looking at Kai's body. "Yes," Sonia said gently, "and I'm sorry you had to see that, but it was the only way. He would never have stopped, would never have let you go." They were halfway to the door when Mara stopped. "Wait," she said. "The others, the people he marked before me, if the bond is tied to his life, they're free now too," Sonia confirmed. "Everyone he ever tattooed with the invisible ink. The compulsion is broken. They can finally move on." But even as relief washed over her, Mara felt something else. A terrible emptiness where the bond had been. The pain she'd carried was back, crashing over her in waves. The trauma from the Tiergarten, the failed cases, the victims she couldn't save. All of it returned at once, no longer transformed into art, but raw and present and crushing. "It hurts," she gasped, doubling over. "It hurts." "I know," Sonia said, supporting her weight. "That's the price of freedom. You get to feel everything again, the good and the bad. No one carrying it for you, no one transforming it into something else. Just you and your pain and your choice about what to do with it." They stumbled out into the cold November night, just as sirens became audible in the distance. Chen's car was first to arrive, her partner jumping out before the vehicle fully stopped. "Mara," Chen breathed, taking in the scene. Mara barely dressed, covered in tattoos, shaking with shock and returned trauma. "What did he do to you?" "Everything," Mara whispered. "He did everything." The next hours blurred together. Paramedics, questions, police photographers documenting her tattoos as evidence. Sonia gave her statement, explaining years of infiltration and documentation. Kai's body was removed from the farmhouse, along with all his equipment, his inks, his files on the dozens of people he'd marked over the years. At the hospital, doctors examined Mara's tattoos under UV light, documenting the extent of Kai's work. Every inch of her skin told a story, some visible, some hidden, all of them marks of possession disguised as transformation. "Can you remove them?" Mara asked the dermatologist. The doctor shook her head. "The compounds he used are unlike anything I've seen," she said. "Laser treatment might fade the visible tattoos, but it could also cause permanent nerve damage. The invisible ones," she paused, "those are integrated too deeply. They're part of your cellular structure now. They'll be with you forever." "Forever." The word echoed in Mara's head as she lay in the hospital bed, Chen sitting beside her in exhausted silence. "I'm sorry," Mara said finally, "for everything I did, the names I gave him, the evidence I destroyed, running from you. You were marked," Chen interrupted gently, "manipulated, controlled by chemicals you didn't consent to. The DA is reviewing the case, but given the circumstances, I don't think you'll face charges. You were a victim, Mara, not an accomplice." But that wasn't quite true, was it? Yes, Kai had marked her without consent, had used chemicals to make her compliant, but she'd also made choices, had given him those names willingly at first, had justified his actions because they felt like justice, had run with him even when she could have stayed and faced consequences. The truth was messier than victim or accomplice. She was both, and neither, and something in between that didn't have a name. 3 months later, Mara stood in her apartment, staring at her reflection in the mirror. The visible tattoos had faded slightly, but they were still there, permanent records of her transformation. And beneath them, invisible, except under UV light, were Kai's marks of ownership. She'd tried to return to work, but found she couldn't. Every time she picked up a pencil to draw a face, she saw Kai's pale eyes staring back at her. Every time she looked at police files, she remembered how easily she'd given him names. Every time she tried to move forward, the tattoos reminded her of what she'd become. The department had offered her medical retirement. She'd taken it. Now she spent her days in her apartment, drawing. Not faces for police reports, but something else. Portraits of all the people Kai had marked. Sonia had given her access to his files, and Mara had taken it upon herself to document them all. The predators he'd punished, the victims he'd claimed to heal, every person whose life he'd transformed, for better or worse. It was her penance, her way of bearing witness. Her doorbell rang. Chen, checking in like she did every week. "How are you doing?" her former partner asked, settling onto the couch. "I don't know," Mara admitted. "Some days I think I'm healing. Other days I feel like I'm still his canvas, even though he's dead. Like he's still inside my skin, still controlling me from beyond the grave." Chen looked at Mara's latest drawings spread across the coffee table. Dozens of faces, all meticulously rendered, all people Kai had touched. "You're doing what he did," Chen said quietly. "Turning people into art, making them part of your collection." The words hit like a physical blow. "No," Mara said. But even as she denied it, she saw the truth. She'd spent months drawing these faces, obsessing over them, making them part of her story, the way Kai had made her part of his. She'd become exactly what he'd always intended, an artist who turned trauma into something visible, a canvas who'd learned to paint others. "He's still inside you," Chen said gently. "Not because of the tattoos, because you let him change how you see the world. He taught you to look at people as stories, as art, as things to be transformed. And even though he's dead, you're still using his eyes." Mara stared at the drawings, feeling the invisible tattoos burn beneath her skin. Not from chemical compulsion anymore, but from the truth of what she'd become. Kai hadn't just marked her body, he'd marked her soul. And that mark would never fade, no matter how many years passed or how far she ran.